Shalom, shalom, Israel. This is Sibaya, aka Talia, coming with another message. Welcome. As you can see, the title of this message is A Pure Language. I will restore to the peoples a pure language. Dealing with Zepheniah 3 and 9, but much more than that, misunderstood and corrected. But before I get started on what this lesson is going to detail and go into, let me give all honor and praises and glory to the Most High Yahweh El Elyon, the Most High Power, the Father, to Yahushua, his Son, who is the mediator and the high priest in heaven, after the order of Melchizedek forever and ever, our high priest, and his Malach Yahweh, his Holy Spirit. I want to give honor, glory, and praises to all three of them, for they are Achad. They are unity, and I bless them with all my heart, my soul, and my mind. So, as you see, a pure language. This verse, Zephaniah 3 and 9, has been taken out of context, has been misunderstood, and has been used and abused to create a lot of folly in Israel. It has been used and plucked out to create false doctrines of language and spirituality in Israel. It has been used to create buffoonery and schemes and gimmicks in ministries amongst Israel. And those of you that are coming out of Christianity, whether it be from Africa to Israel to Americas, coming out of Christianity and realizing that you have been sold and told lies and deceived to come into what they call the New Awakening and to be bombarded with so many foolish schemes of coming into your roots, culture, inheritance, and the knowledge of the truth of your identity. And so they'll run the scheme about having a language, returning to a pure language, a land, a culture, and spirituality. But the first thing that they will not speak on is the laws, the statutes, the judgments, and the righteousness of Torah. They use that, and they use the identity, and they use these the concepts of what Yah has called us to return to. But when you hear their speech, you'll see it's wrapped up in gimmicks that lead you nowhere and in circles. And basically, y'all in rumper room. Y'all in rumper room learning ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and you can't even form a sentence yet. So I want to correct this. This has been greatly misunderstood. And like I said, people open up this book, and because they believe that they are educated and they can read English or whatever other language that this Bible has been translated in, and they think that they can read this book and understand it because they can literally read the words in any other language, whether it be Hebrew or not. But the Bible has told us, the words of these prophets has told us, let the word interpret the word. This book is not for anybody to handle. It was given to the leaders, the prophets, and the priests by Yah's Spirit to reveal the revelation of this book. This language, Hebrew, is an idiomatic language, and it is spoken by a people that speaks in idioms. And there was messages that was hidden in plain sight so that the foolish who believes that they are wise could not understand. So we're going to restore the true purpose of this scripture in this text that's being widely misinterpreted by a lot of people amongst the Hebrew Israelites in America, amongst these the African tribes right now, amongst the Bantu, Mandinka, warrior, African spiritualists right now, amongst the gimmicks of the New Awakening, doing your Alef to the top, right? So we're going to get some understanding, because this scripture has been used to propagate a bunch of foolishness in Israel. And it's proven us to be as ignorant as a monkey. Okay, so this is what I gotta say. A word to the wise. Deaf and dumb work together. Our people are deaf and we are dumb. And they work together. right? A non-listening and a non-speaking people. Educated though, intellectual, but deaf and dumb. Before a language was ever written, it was heard. So you got an argument over the Paleo Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew script, versus the modern and Bantu language and all of this other stuff, right? And so let me give you a little story. The beginning of our text is from our forefathers, right? And what we got is when Yah spoke to us at the mountain. Guess what? He didn't write anything first. He never intended to write down his laws, statutes, and commandments, his holiness, his truth, and his righteous judgments in a book. So you're scribbling and scrabbling over a written language first that most of y'all can't even read to determine what is being heard. But let me tell you something. Yah declared his word. He declared his name by his mouth alone. And we heard it at the mountain, and we're going to hear it again. Right? So you got people that never heard a language in their life trying to read a language and assert what the language is supposed to sound like. And this is the most foolish thing that one could ever do. Right? Not to have heard a language, but try to recreate it just by reading it from their transliterations or literations or scholars and books, right? Yah decided to write it down because we refused to hear the word of Yah. We didn't want to hear it, and we didn't want to extend our ears to our hearts. Understand that, right? So we got a lot of intellectuals out here that want to talk and speak over the people on things that they are incapable of really going into and understand. So I'm going to simplify this message as much as I can. I'm not going to exacerbate it because I'm going to touch more on these issues when I get into the name. When I talk about these African spiritualists that have infiltrated us, and I said that they're Canaanites amongst us, and I'm going to prove who they are, and I'm going to let them speak as they become very defensive, as they hear the word and the judgment go forth from me as a prophet to judge the mouth of the peoples and the lies and the prophets and the leaders of Israel and the deceivers and the wolves. Let them come out of their dark caves and speak their truth all together. So if you don't hear something, how else can you read it? How do you know how something is pronounced? How do you know what is being said if you haven't heard it? The Holy Spirit works the same way as for all you spiritualists. The Holy Spirit is here to testify to what you have already heard, but you have to hear it through a preacher. How could one preach unless they were sent? All right, Israel. So Zepheniah 3:9 reads like this. This is the confusion and the gimmick that everyone has used for their propagating the Hebrew identity, the new awakening, right? The gullible lost sheep. Some of y'all are just fools and you deserve it. But some of y'all just simply just don't know. And I'm here. If you open up your ears, I'm going to open up your eye to see it very clearly. Zephaniah 3:9. For then I will restore to the people a pure language, that they might call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one accord. I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to show you that that is not a bad interpretation, but it's not exactly what it means, right? One might look at that off a surface and says, oh, Yah is going to make a big deal about restoring us the pure Hebrew language, or the pure language of the first language, right? So this is where the Bantu thing is coming in, that's tricking all of y'all with the Bantu language, right? And all the languages of Africa, right? Well, let's get some understanding what this actually means. Let the word interpret the word. And because people have gone in this book and picked this out, we got all kind of false doctrines and foolishness going on in Israel. And I call it Hebronics. I'm starting off with Hebronics. It's just some buffoonery going on. But from the first stage of this, we got Hebronics going on, right? We are people that speak Ebonics, even if we educated, but we got Hebronics going on. And Hebronics have become the new educated stupid amongst our people. You got people that don't know the language, trying to teach you the language, can't form one word or one sentence or one paragraph or read it. or write it, trying to teach you the alphabet, y'all. Doing pictures. And I ask you, you've been with these people for a year, can you speak Hebrew? Can you hold a conversation? Can you read or write Torah any better? Did your righteousness or your garment become any cleaner? Did you feel closer to Yah? Now you can communicate with him? Now he hears you? Do you got culture now? Spirituality is sitting on your shoulders because you can say the alphabet and read some pictures. So this is what I'm going to address, and I'm not going to exact some of this. I'm going to just talk to and make some sense, y'all. The Alef to the top equals pictographic Hebrew. This is one of the biggest schemes that have hit the New Awakening today, right? There is a term in the scripture called I am the Alef to the top. So what you got is Christians who ain't got nothing new to offer you in this New Awakening except some old Christian doctrine. Their mistranslation of Yahweh's name, which they don't understand where they got it from. It was just the most common one in use, so they chose that one, right, to be amongst the peoples. Teaching you the alphabet in pictographic Hebrew. So we're gonna get some understanding. Does when Yah said I'm the Alef to the top, does that mean go into kindergarten, go into the romper room, right? Or Sesame Street, right? Does that mean go through every alphabet and look at and interpret pictures? We're going to get some understanding of what does it mean when he said, I'm the Alef to the top. And by no means does it mean that you are supposed to interpret pictographic Hebrew in pictures. It's the biggest scheme that has hit the New Awakening today. And these people are just making loads of money, just cashing out on you as if they're teaching you something and they're teaching you nothing.
And Toda Rabbi once again for Jazz, who put these cards together. It's so efficient. Because everything we need is right on the card. And many of you that's in the room, you all have ordered your cards, and you will see that you can study with these cards. You've got the modern script, then you have the paleo, then you have, of course, the pictograph. In this case, the paleo and the pictograph are very, very similar to one another. And then you can see the fence. Yeah. So you see that the pictograph was a fence, or is a fence. And then we got a picture of a fence to remind you. And then on the back, we have the verses where the word is being used in Hebrew. The letter is being used in Hebrew. And then, of course, the meanings and the numerical value. We're going to be going through this tonight. Once again,
So we got the issue about ancient biblical Hebrew versus what they call modern Hebrew versus those that are claiming that Hebrew and modern Hebrew is nothing but Yiddish. This is a big issue happening right now amongst people who have no idea, no knowledge on what they're talking about or know nothing about the language. And I'm going to talk to that just a little bit about this issue going on to divert you from returning to the true word of Yah that was written in a language that can be proven, tried, and tested, and it cannot be nullified or denied as the language, not the written script, but the language in which Yah spoke to the children of Israel in, the language in which the prophets wrote to us in, and the language in which Yahushua spoke to us with, and the disciples. This is something that they're trying to divert you because it'll take you away from the written word, the testimony, and the law in which Yah has passed down to us, right?
I'll say, according to the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So when I was praying using the modern Hebrew, right, I would say, according to the covenant of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. Okay? However, that is that modern Hebrew, which is Yiddish. But in the Bantu languages, which run concurrently with the Paleo Hebrew, those of you that were wondering, the ancient Congo and many of the other dialects, run neck and neck with the Paleo Hebrew, like literally. The word formation, even the sentence structure, is very similar to how ancient Hebrew was. So
no, it's not. And then we have Lahashawan Kadash, which they call the holy tongue or the holy language, right? Where they're telling you that it has no vowel sounds except the ah sound and perhaps the ie sound, depending on which alphabet is using as the ayin. And they're calling this the pure language. And this is also created off of this verse, Zepheniah 3:9, of Yah will return a pure language. So what we got going on is complete Neanderthal foolishness going on in Israel. And it's the most embarrassing thing that could have ever took place concerning language. I don't have a problem with anyone that wants to, how do I say, explore different ethnic, Afrocentric, Asiatic languages. Go for it. That is a wonderful thing to learn lots of languages. I have no problem if people want to sing songs in different languages, but when it comes to Yah's holy written testimony, you cannot play with that. When it comes to the definition of the Hebrew tongue, which is not a language just that was given to man, but a language that came from heaven, you cannot play with that. When it comes to the holy name of Yah, a proper noun that Yah describes within his holy language, how the rules go concerning his name, you do not play with that. You can sing any song you want. You can abagabada. But when it comes down to expressing Yah's word according to his written law, his testimony, and his holy name, you don't play with that. So we got some Hebronics going on. We got some abagabadaba foolishness going on amongst the people. Example.
Kayaba, good, ya, and fa, as badala, separate, ala'i, Allah, bama, as from, ba, and fana, between, e, the, ayara, lightning, ya, and ba, between, fana, and between, e, the, hawaka, the, ya, and
entitlement to original name of the Obara people. And we have lost the understanding of our language. So there's a difference between what is called biblical Hebrew, which belongs to the Jews, the Hebrew Israelites. But the Obara Farawala, have a language of their own, and what is most people call the Paleo or the ancient Hebrew, but it gets deeper than that. Our original language and what we read out of is actually the Pictograph Obara. And so there's the major difference between us and them. As our forefathers would say in the ancient tongue, Dafa, Wala, Fatah, Fa'i Ya'i Ala'i, Ola Fa'a, Bama Loka Yata, Ano Wa'a, Yalamona, Dafa, Fazoba'a, Fatana Na'i, Banafa, Fawa Farawala, Walama.
And then I spoke to it, and I'm going to speak to a little more. We got the Hebrew language, right? Or the Shemitic languages versus the Bantu languages and dialects. And so you have what I said and what I showed you before. We have Canaanites amongst us that have infiltrated us, right? And I'm going to go into that a little more and speak a little bit on this language issue, right? Versus Bantu languages, trying to convince you that Bantu is the first language of mankind on this earth. It's the original language. It may be the first boogalooga that the Neanderthals or the ape man or creation man or whatever man was on this earth before Adam got here might have been speaking. But what it's not is the first language that Yah spoke to mankind. That's what it's not. It's not a Shemitic language. And I'm going to speak more about this Bantu languages because it's not a language. It is a family ethnic group that has a system of languages, right? A system of languages that are not coherent, y'all. And it's not Shemitic.
So, Zephaniah, read verse 8.
from verse 9. For I will restore to the peoples a pure language. They will call on the name of Yah to serve him with one accord. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, I will restore a pure language. From where? From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. The pure language won't be restored from Israel, Northeast Africa. They into Yiddish. The pure language won't be restored from Asia. The pure language won't be restored from America. No, it's in Africa. The secrets are in Africa. It's always been Africa. It's always been Africa. That's where the secrets are. We have people teaching this truth and they reject Bantu Africa. You will never get it. You'll be in the Yiddish. This is the problem.
So I'm going to speak to that a little bit more. Then we're going to talk a little bit about translations versus transliterations. Let's get some understanding concerning Yah's name. But I'm just, like I said, I don't want to exacerbate this. Like I said, I'm going to speak to it and just give you some common sense, a little bit of knowledge, and y'all can go back and do your research and back check these people, right? These people that are speaking foolishness to you, to divert you from the ideology, right? That you cannot obtain the truth about Yah's righteousness, his laws, what he's commanded and requested of us, if you don't learn Lingala, Congo, or something like that, right? Or even Hebrew, as if Yah's word didn't go out in all languages and his name was not to be declared. So we're going to get the scripture on that. Not the prophets, not the elders in the bush, but the scriptures that our forefathers, the ones that we know by testimony, had a good testimony, a faithful testimony by the word of Yah, written, sealed, and delivered to us as an example on the way we should walk. Not the ancestors today, not the elders and the prophets today that have led us wrong and got us into the trouble we in now. All right. So we're gonna let's speak some sense to nonsense, Israel. Let's speak some sense to nonsense. So first of all, the question, pictographic Hebrew, right? Pictographic Hebrew, the Alef to the Tav, right? And off of this idiom, the Alef to the Tav, they have created a whole system of scandal on you guys, preaching and teaching a bunch of nothings, like you are learning something and you come closer to Elohim by learning your alphabet. And they got all kind of gimmicks attached to it by pictures. Yah did not speak to us in pictures. He spoke to us concrete words, right? Words, sentences that has action, clear action, right? Intense, right? Proper noun, pronoun, sentences, paragraphs, verses, books. That's how Yah spoke to us. And that's how our forefathers laid down the foundation of what we are to meditate on. Not pictures, y'all. That's a game. That's a game that can be played with. There's no science behind it. There's no foundation behind it. And I'm going to give you a little bit about this pictographic Paleo Hebrew, right? We're going to go into the word and find out what does it mean, the Alef to the Tav. So you can look this up. This is on Wikipedia, right? But look up Paleo Hebrew. Do your research. Do your research, people. The Paleo Hebrew alphabet. Let me make that clear. The Paleo Hebrew alphabet, not language. I'm going to say it again. There is no such thing as a Paleo Hebrew language. It's just Hebrew. But Hebrew, the language of Hebrew, has used Paleo Hebrew alphabet to write their language. I'm going to make it clear. There is no such language, spoken language, as Paleo Hebrew. Paleo Hebrew is an alphabet, and it is called Hakatev Ha'ivri HaKodem, right? It is the first written Hebrew. That's what it means. A language that was first written, also spelled Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. It is a variant of the Phoenician alphabet. So the Phoenician alphabet is another word for saying the Canaanite alphabet. So please understand that the Paleo-Hebrew script was derived in a variant, not the same, of a variant of the Phoenician Canaanite alphabet, not words, right? I didn't say hieroglyphs. I said alphabet. There is a difference between a hieroglyph and an alphabet, right? Like the Phoenician alphabet, the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet contains 22 letters, all of which are consonants, not pictures, and is described as the abjad. The abjad means the 22 consonant letters of the Hebrew language that is written from left to right, that expresses the letter value, the number value, and the name of the alphabet in Hebrew. The term was coined by Solomon Birbaum in 1954. He wrote, to apply the term Phoenician to the script of the Hebrew is hardly suitable because it's not the same. Still, the script is nearly identical to the Phoenician script. We're not talking about the language. We're talking about the difference between the influence of the writing, the script, to the language. Hebrew is not Canaanite, but there are similarities in the language. Archaeological evidence of the use of the script, not the language, by the Israelites for writing the Hebrew language. Do y'all hear the difference? There's a difference between a script and a language. It's much like Spanish today. The Spanish language is written in English, but it is not English. It is an English script. It is Spanish language written in English script. Let me help you understand again. The Bantu languages, right? Or Congo language, which does not have a written form any longer, is a language, a Bantu family language that is written in English phonetic letters. But the English phonetic letters does not make Bantu language or Congo or Lingala or whatever you speak English. Do y'all understand the difference? I'm going to express it again. There is no such thing as a Paleo-Hebrew language. There's only one language, y'all, right? You can call it ancient Hebrew and modern Hebrew, and I'm going to explain what the difference is, and it's not a difference in the language. Okay? So archaeological evidence of the use of the script by the Israelites for writing the Hebrew language dates to around the 10th century BCE. I'm going to prescribe to you that before the 10th century BCE, or whatever time they want to put on the Paleo-Hebrew, that we know that Abraham came out of Samaria. We know that Abraham had writings. We know that they wrote in Samaria. And so the Hebrew language is related in a writing to the Akkadian language, right? The Akkadian language, right? From Samaria, right? It's a Shemitic language. It's not African. It doesn't matter what letters you use. The language did not change, okay? Dates around the 10th century BCE. The Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, not language, began to fall out of use by the Jews in the 5th century BCE. When the Aramaic alphabet, which is also a Semitic Syrian script, not language, script, was adopted as the predominant writing system for the Hebrew language. The present Jewish square script, the Aramaic that you see now, Hebrew alphabet, evolved from the Aramaic alphabet. The Samaritans, now fewer than 1,000 people, have continued to use a derivative of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. known as the Samaritan alphabet, not language, alphabet. While the use of the script is negligible nowadays, it is present in some symbolic usages, such as the shekel sign for the 1 coin and the logo of the Israeli town Nahariya. Y'all can go look that up. Go look it up and stop letting people tell you what it is and they don't know anything about what they're speaking about. Okay, so just to give you some understanding, one of the things I want to say is that in ancient Africa, right? Africa as we know it, one of the first earliest writings and languages known that has a language and a writing, right? You cannot trace a language until you trace the writing or the influence of it, right? From where it started. We're talking about the written form of a language. Many languages exist that did not have a writing or may have lost their writing, but still exist. But in ancient Africa, the earliest was actually Proto-Saharan, which was from Nubia. But I'm going to show you that even the Kushite and Nubian Empire, the Kushite Empire that had a form of writing, was also traced all the way in Babylon, right? From Sumeria. But in Africa, the first and earliest, the Proto-Saharan, right? And then we have the Egyptian hieroglyphs, right? This is the first ones. Egyptian hieroglyphs, which is Egyptian pictures, right? And in Egyptian pictures, most of the writing systems, not language, writing systems, which is a Hamitic writing system, has influenced most of the world's writing today, right? So from the hieroglyphics, it is influenced what we call Proto-Sinaitic, the Proto-Sinaitic, right? And from the Proto-Sinaitic in about 2000 BCE, influenced what we call the Proto-Canaanite. Proto-Canaanite, it was the first Canaanite written language, not just the Hamitic, but Canaanite. And the Proto-Canaanite, right, had influenced what we call Phoenician, which is also Canaanite writing. And from the Canaanite writing, not language, it influenced the script of what we call Paleo-Hebrew. I'm going to say it again. Paleo-Hebrew is this, y'all. Paleo-Hebrew was never this. Never hieroglyphics. Never did we ever use hieroglyphics and pictures for the Hebrew alphabet. What people are tracing back is Paleo-Hebrew and the influence of the lettering from where it derived from, all the way from Egyptian hieroglyphs. But we don't speak Egyptian. We don't speak Proto-Sinaitic, which is African. We don't speak Canaanite. We speak Hebrew. It is just the lettering. And from Hebrew comes all the Aramaic, the Hebrew black script today, even Greek, all kinds of lettering, all the way to today. This is not about the language. It is about the writing, y'all, the writing. And by the time we get into Proto-Canaanite, it is no longer pictures. It is a lettering system, a letter system. So stop letting people show you the ox and the grass and the fish in the hand. Though the letters may have maintained some of their meaning because it is similar in Hebrew, but it's not that word, right? Just a few pictures, just to see how it's transformed. And there's others in between. I wanted to simplify this as much as possible to show you the diversions and the variations from the Egyptian hieroglyph all the way to what we call the Paleo-Hebrew or Hebrew script writing today, which also influenced Aramaic, right? But what I'm saying is that even before the Egyptian hieroglyphs, there was the Proto-Saharan language that can trace it, actually its roots all the way to Assyria. Okay, so let's get to this. What does it mean when the script uses the idiom, the Alef to the top? Let me explain this. It's something like in Egypt. Every language has idiom. We was an idiomatic speaking people. We speak a lot of slang and idioms today that if you was to translate in another language, makes no sense, right? Makes no sense. In every language, there are idioms, and in Hebrew, it is full of idioms. This is the problem when people are reading the book. They don't understand the spiritual context of something or the idiomatic verbiage of what something means. But the scripture says, let the scriptures interpret the scriptures, because these idioms are being expressed in the English language. So it's something like we would say in English, man, I'm tired. I've been working all week long, nonstop. How long have you been working? 24/7. 24/7. Does it literally mean go and block off your every minute and block that off in time, and that every minute from 6 o'clock in the morning to the full 24 hours, 7 days a week? No, it doesn't mean that. It's an idiom to say all the time. All the time. It's an idiom to say a lot. Much is this word, the Alef to the top, right? So does it mean when Yah says, I'm the Alef to the top, that you're going to get understanding in Yah's word? You're going to get perfection in his judgments and righteousness? You're going to get understanding in his spiritual essence of what he's trying to convey? You're going to get a pure heart when you learn pictures? This is a game, y'all. This is a ploy for your money, right? They always got something to sell you. And you're buying stuff from people that don't know the language themselves. Let's get some word on that. Revelations 1 and 8. I am the Alef and I am the Top. It is transliterated in Greek as the Alpha and Omega. Why can they do that? Is this a, is this a blasphemy of the term? Not necessarily, because it's an idiom, right? From the A to the Z, right? And from the A to the Z also means the same thing from the Alef to the Tav, says Yahweh, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. What is he expressing when he says, I am the Alef to the Tav? What the idiom is expressing is about his everlasting power that exists of all time. Time, y'all. In time, before time, and after time. He's expressing that he is the almighty power. He is the power of all time. The beginning and the end. Okay, Revelations 1 and 17. When I saw him, Yahushua, I fell at his feet like a dead man. But he placed his right hand on me and said, don't be afraid. I am the first and the last. That's what it means, y'all. I am the Alef and the Tav, right? I'm the word of Yah that was made manifest. I'm going to show you more on that I am the word that was spoken in the beginning, and I am the word that's going to manifest in the end. I am the power that went forth to create and make. I'm the living word of everlasting and existence of all time. Revelations 22 and 13. I am the Alef and I am the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Yehoshua says it like this: I am the author and the finisher of your faith. I am the word that was made manifest and walked among you to be an example of light. And in the beginning was the word, and that word was light, and it went out. Isaiah 43 and 10. You are my witnesses, declares Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, so that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me, no power was formed, and none will come after me. What he's declaring is that I, he, Yahushua, is the power, everlasting power. And there is no other power beside him. Isaiah 44 and 6. Thus says Yahweh, the King and Redeemer of Israel, Yahweh of hosts, Zebaot. I am the first and I am the last, and there is no power but me. All of you that say you want to return to your roots and you want to go back to African spirituality, there is no power in any of those gods. They have no power. There's only one power, and that is Yahweh and Yahushua, his son. Not in zombie, not Shineke, not Oloro, nothing. Not Lord, not God, not Jesus, not Christ. Yahweh, Yahushua is the power and no other power. Isaiah 41:4. The Alef to the Tav means learn your alphabet and read pictures all day long? No. Isaiah 41:4. Who has performed and done it? Calling the generations from the beginning. I am Yahweh, the first and the last. I am he. Who's speaking? So the word here is merosh, from the beginning, from the head, right? Ani Yahweh, Reshon, the first, wa'et, Alef to the Tav, ha'akaron. Isaiah 46:10, declaring and telling the end from the beginning and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel, the word is etz, right? The word is etz, etzah. Where are we? Amar etzi, right? My counsel. But the word is etz, which means tree, branch, stick, wood. Who's the tree of life? Who's the branch, right? That is the counsel of Yah. Shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. It is an idiom describing his eternal power from the beginning to the end. Isaiah 48:12, listen to me, O Yaakov and Yisrael, whom I have called. I am he, the first, even I am the last. Ani Reshon Af, Ani Acharon. That's what it means to be the Alef to the top. It's an idiom, people. It's just an idiom. It doesn't mean go through the pictures of the alphabet and figure out what it could possibly mean. So let's read all of this. Isaiah 48, and let's get some understanding. Starting from verse 1. Hear this, house of Jacob, you who are called by my name of Israel, by the name of Israel, and have come forth out of the waters of Judah, right? Who swear by the name of Yahweh and make mention of the Elohim of Israel. So yes, you Judah, coming out of the waters of the nations of Judah, you swear by the name of Yah, you speak in his name, you make mention of his name, but not in truth, nor in righteousness. From the holy city, they call themselves and lean in support and rest on the Elohim of Israel. Yahweh Zebaot in his name. So you call yourself the holy city. Yah didn't call you yet. You call yourself the holy city, and you saying you lean in support and Elohim is your power. The beginning from then I have declared, and I have told, and from my mouth they went forth. That was the word, and I caused them to hear. Suddenly I did them, and they will come to pass. Go and read what this is all about. This is about the prophetical vision about the end time of Israel. What he declared from the end, from the beginning, is going to happen in the end. And the plan of Israel's salvation, he spoke from the beginning. Because I knew that you are obstinate, difficult. Your neck is as an iron sinew, and your forehead of brass. It means that you have a Greco-Roman mentality, American mentality, which is just stubborn and stiff-necked and proud. Therefore, I have declared it to you from of old. Before it came to pass, I showed it to you, lest you should say, my idol has done them. Yes, you should say, that in Zombie has done these marvelous, powerful works for us. Yahweh declared it from the beginning, so nobody would take the glory. Lest you should say that Lord had did it for us. But no, Lord didn't declare this by his word. Yahweh declared it in his word. God didn't declare it from his word. Yahweh declared it from his word. Chineke, Oloru, didn't declare it. Zeus didn't declare it. Yahweh declared it from the beginning, and he wrote it down. My engraved images declared it. No image spoke to you, right? Nobody spoke to you but Yah, and he wrote it down. And no molten images has commanded them. I did, Yahweh. You have heard it, see all this, and you will not declare it. I have shown you new things from this time, even hidden things which you have not known. All this knowledge that you see all of these people speaking came from Yah's word. They are created now and not from of old. And before this day, you didn't hear them, lest you should say, behold, I knew them. Yes, you didn't hear them. You didn't hear. Yes, you didn't know. Yes, from of old your ear was not open, for I have knew that you did deal very treacherously and was called the transgressor from the womb. O Israel, O Jacob, O house of Judah. For my name's sake, I will defer my anger, and for my praise will I refrain for you, that I will not cut you off. So Yah made a promise to our forefathers in his name, and he is not going to profane his name by swearing by his name and not keeping his oath. He made an oath to Israel. He made an oath to Judah, and he's going to keep it for his name's sake. And that is, I will save a remnant from you. Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have chosen you in the furnace of affliction. That affliction was slavery and bondage in the land of our captives. But Yah says there is a time that he's going to have to refine us as silver and gold, and that is the last end. So he's choosing you by grace and by punishment. That's what he's saying. Those of you that take the correction, he'll choose you. Out of what? Let's see. For my own sake, I will do it. For how should my name be profaned? And my glory I will not give to another. I am not going to let nobody take away the glory of the word that I set forth in the promise of my name and authority and power. I will manifest my word, and no man is going to take glory for anything that has taken place on this earth that I spoke before time and manifested. Listen to me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. I am he. I am the first and I am the last. Yes, my hand has laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand has spread out the heavens. That's Yahoshua. When I call to them, they stand up together. Assemble, gather yourselves. What is this about, y'all? Gather yourselves, all you, and hear who among them has declared these things. Who has declared these great and marvelous works of Yah, right? Who has declared the destruction of Babylon? Who has declared what's going to happen in the end? Who has declared the wars and rumors of wars? Who's declared what nation will destroy what nation? Who has declared what king shall reign? Who's declared this? Nobody but Yahweh. He who Yahweh loves shall perform his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be on the Chaldeans. Who's the arm? Yahweh is the arm, and Yahoshua has become the arm of his strength. But Yah said that I've spoken and I've given my hand and my power to an anointed one. Who's he talking about? Is he talking about Yahoshua? No, Yahoshua is the power that is going to put his hand on someone who he called. A Messiah that he chose to do what? Perform his pleasure on Babylon. I have spoken, right? Yes, I have called him. Who did he call? This is the great Cyrus that was called and anointed to destroy Babylon. And I've showed you the prophecy that Cyrus today, the epithet of Cyrus is Russia. I brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Come near to me and hear this. From the beginning, I have not spoken in secret. From the time that I was, there I am. Now Yahweh has sent me with his spirit. Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yahweh, your Elohim, your powers, who teaches you the prophet or to prosper, who leads you by the way you should go. You follow my words and no other man. And if they don't speak by my written words that I've declared from the beginning to the end, you do not follow them. Oh, that I had listened to my command. Oh, that you had listened to my commandments. What commandments did any African booty scratching demonic devil coming from the dirt zombie ever declare? Absolutely nothing, because the dead know nothing. You let the zombies stay in the dirt, because when they rise, when they hear the voice of Yahushua, every dead zombie will also rise, only to meet their death eternal. Then your peace will have been like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. I dare you. So, as I said before, the word is clear. The Alef to the Tav, as they have used this phrase to manipulate and scandal and scheme and create all kind of merchandise to sell you, to act like that they have been sent to teach you something that they themselves are just now learning. They don't even know the language. They can't even speak it. So we have something called the Lahashawan Kadash, the holy tongue that this fool has created. And it's nothing but Ebonics. Let me give you an example of what it is.
Well, I can't say the name of my brother. What a top.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Foolishness. Embarrassing, y'all. So this is the Hebrew Lahashawan Hakadash Paleo Hebrew alphabet. And if you was to sing your ABCs, this is what it would sound like, y'all. This is what it would sound like. Abagada, Hawazaka, Tayaka, Lamanasa, Ayi, Pataza, Karasha, Tawa, Tawada, Tawada. Y'all, this is the most foolish thing that you have ever heard in your life. Let me help you guys out. There's no language on this earth that doesn't have vowel sounds in it. You cannot conjugate a language to past, present, and future. You cannot conjugate languages that has a 3-root volume from verb to past particle to noun to pronoun to adjective without vowel sounds. There's no language on this earth that just has 1 or 2 vowel sounds. Even monkeys have more vowel sounds than that, y'all. This is Neanderthal. This is Neanderthal, y'all. This is embarrassing. And so that's what we got, the new Hebronics of today. So let me just give you a little bit of understanding. This lie, and when I go into the name, I'm going to explain more about this. The 3 great letters in the Hebrew language serve as consonant vowels. This is a lie talking about the Abjad is all 22 letters of consonants. That is not true in the Hebrew language. The Hebrew language does not need miquidot, dots, to read the language. The dots in Hebrew are a training wheel that was put there by a system, by the Masoretic text, so that it would not be lost to those that lost how to speak the language, right? That they could maintain it through the reading if they were no longer in a situation where they were speaking the language any longer. Yod, though it can serve as a consonant, it works as a vowel, as an E or an I. Hey, though it can be used as a consonant, it is a vowel. as an ah or an eh, and a wah, though it can be a consonant, it is used as a vowel as an oo or an o. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes I, right? And so the Hebrew languages can, if you understand, once you learn the language and you understand the rules of conjugation, past, present, particle, tense, whatever, you know how to translate the language. And the translations and the conjugations of the language is determined by the vowel sounds. Let me explain something. These 3 letters, including another 2, Yod, He, Wah, are the 3 great letters, consonant vowels that constitute Yahweh's name of presence, existence, of power. There is no language, there's no sound that you can speak without breath. And all breath has to take on a vowel tonation to have life, to vibrate, right? There is no vibration. It cannot move forward without vowel sounds. And these words, right, or these letters that equal consonant vowels, yod, hey, wah, are the breath of life, Yahweh. They represent the sound of the breath of life, the force behind the sound that permeates into vibration. Anything that makes a sound has a vowel tonation to it. Pattern manifest. All sound is activated from the pattern of these 3 letters, or a combination of them, to form all varieties of vowel sounds in all languages. There is no language that cannot use these 3 vowel sounds to pronounce Yahweh's name. No language can make an excuse that I can't say it. These sounds exist in every language. Therefore, it is possible to pronounce this great, awe-inspiring, most holy name, Yahweh, in all languages that exist. You don't believe me? Watch me read it in the Word. All right, so we got Zepheniah 3 and 9, and it reads, this is the proper reading, even though I just said the translation that you may read in the King James Version is not bad, but let's get some understanding, right? It says, Ki az, efuk, right? Efuk, el amim, right? So it says, because then I will overturn, right? Lahef, it comes from the word lahefik, which means backwards or turned upside down. So he's saying, you are turned upside down. You're upside down. You're backwards. It means backwards. And I'm going to have to turn you back upside down, right side up, towards people, right? To the people. El Amin Sapa. Bira Likre Kulam, right? So a language or a tongue chosen, purified, to call, Likre. This is not to mention. This is actually to speak with your mouth, to call. I'm going to explain why you need to be turned back right side up. To call everybody, not just Israel, Kulam, everybody, Beshem, in the name Yahweh. Le'abdu, to serve, Shechem, which means a shoulder, Achad, in one shoulder, right? So in other words, in English, it translates like this. For then I will overturn to the peoples a language or a tongue or a lip pure, to or for everyone to call on the name of Yahweh, to serve him in one shoulder. What does this mean? Because of this one script, taking a script out of context, believing that they are intelligent, not letting the Bible interpret itself, everyone is taking upon themselves to come with a gimmick now that you must return to a pure language. So now there is a fight over what's the pure language, trying to nullify Hebrew, which there's no other script that can be testified that the ancient script of what the forefathers have written to us in the name of Yahweh was written in the Hebrew language, which was never lost, y'all, right? So does this mean that I'm going to restore a Hebrew language? Does this mean that you're going to return back to Bantu languages, which is not a language, it's an umbrella family of languages that I'm going to explain later? Does this mean return to Paleo, Abagada, Bugawaka? No, it does not, y'all. That's not what this means. So let's get some understanding when y'all says, I'm going to have to upside right your upside down tongue, right? So let's get some definitions. Birura comes from the word baral, to purify, select, 2 times as choice, chosen, cleanse, pure, to show, purge, purge, purify, purified, select, sharpen, show yourself pure, sincerely tested. From the brown driver's briggs, verb, purify, select, compared to the Assyrian, right? Bararu, which means to be shining, to be clean, to be clear, right? From the Arabic, as in pious, kind, true. He was pious, good, virtuous, honest, right? From the Strong's exhaustive concordance, we have make bright. This is what it means to shine, to make clear, choice, chosen, clean, be clean, clearly, polished, purified, purge, out of a primitive root to clarify, right? Brighten, examine, select, make bright, choice, chosen, cleanse, be clean, clearly, polished, show self, purify, or purged out. So now that we have the breakdown of what these words mean, that's birura, the word sapa, which is pretty simple. The word sapa means lips, speech, edge, border, or seashore. It is used as a term 2 times as babbling, right? That's what happens when you see somebody babble, 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 babble. Their lips is just going. Bank, right? Which also means like a border or seashore. Binding, brim, edge, empty, gossip, language, lips, lip service, lips, mirror, seashore, shore, speech, talkative words. Now, why would this word sapa have the dual meaning of lips, edge, border, or seashore? Well, I'm going to get to the prophecies when y'all, because the words, right? Let the words of the meditations of your heart, the issues of what you really feel in your heart are spoken off the lips. That is the last shore, right? Those are your living waters right here when you speak, right? So that is the seashore. That is the brink of your waters, right? But Yah said that we must take on his living waters, which is the breath, the speech, the truth and sincerity of the word of Yah, which is the word of life. He is the living waters. And he said that we should speak according to his words. And out of your mouth shows the issues of your heart. The heart is where the river of life flows from. Those of your waters. But at the edge of your waters, the seashore is your lips. And I'm going to show you that this passing over waters is a purification, is also to purify your heart and cleanse your own rivers of life so that you can take on the rivers of Yahushua, the waters of life. This passing over the rivers. All right. Zepheniah, let's get some understanding and read the whole chapter to let the Bible interpret the Bible. As I promote, and I know that Yah will return the Hebrew language, whether we speak in certain dialects, or when I say dialects, I mean accents. We're not changing the language, but he's going to return Hebrew to us. And I'm going to show you that in the script itself, when he says, in order for you to pass over. The word is avar, which Ivrit comes from, which means Hebrew, which means to cross over the waters, not Bantu. He didn't say you're going to come from the Bantu, right? He said you're going to pass over, avar, Ivrit. But I also am not saying that this also means, right, that you need to speak a pure language. Let's see what it means when he say a pure language. Woe to her who is rebellious and polluted, the oppressing city. Who's he talking to? Now, one might read this out of context, and say that this is talking about Babylon. No, the oppressing city is Israel, Jacob, Judah, Ephraim, the house of Israel, in Babylon, right? She didn't obey the voice. She didn't receive correction. She didn't trust in Yahweh. She didn't draw near to her Elohim. That's what Yah's asking us to do. Obey his voice, receive correction, trust in Yah, and draw near to me after. Her princesses in the midst of her are a roaring lion. A roaring lion means they are on the prowl, on the hunt to put fear in the people for them, to fear them, right? And a roaring lion is looking to devour prey through fear, to eat you up through the fear. Her judges are evening wolves. Wolves hunt for meat at night. They leave nothing until the next day. So he's saying that the leaders, your judges, and your princes are here to devour you, to eat up all your substance, your spirit, your life force, your substance, and everything that you got. They're here to take it from you. Her prophets are arrogant and treacherous people. The prophets of Israel are arrogant. Why are they arrogant? We're going to see what arrogance is to Yah. You might call me arrogant, right? Because I speak with boldness and assurity. Certainly a prophet must speak that way according to the word of Yah. Thus says Yah. That's not arrogance. We're going to see what arrogance is in Yah's word, right? And they are treacherous. What does treacherous mean? Her priests have profaned the sanctuary. He talked about this profaning the sanctuary, that they don't make a distinction between clean and unclean, food to eat. They don't make a distinction what is clean speech and evil speech. They don't make a distinction between holy judgment within the body and unholy judgment within the body, righteous judgment. They don't make a distinction between mixing their seeds amongst the nations. They have done violence to my law. Okay, what does this have to do with a pure language? This is the purpose, y'all. Hear the understanding of what Yah is saying, that the leadership in Israel are here to make merchandise off of you. Take everything you got, leave you with nothing, eat you alive, and they're arrogant and treacherous. And so they are profane in the sanctuary, and they do violence to his law. Yahweh in the midst of her is righteous. He will do no wrong. Every morning, his justice is light. So Yah said, when I dwell among you, what did he say? He said, when there is righteous judgment and justice amongst the body, amongst the people in the city, then I, Yahweh, will return to you and restore you and call you the city of righteousness. When you enact righteous justice amongst the people, that's when he said, I will walk among you as light. I will protect you and I will call you the city of righteousness, the city of justice. But there's no righteousness in her. There's no justice in Israel. He will do no wrong. Every morning he brings his justice to light. He doesn't fail, but the unjust now know no shame, right? No shame. So he said, Yah is trying to show you the wickedness of Israel. He's bringing it to light about these leaders, but you have no shame. Israel, you don't have no shame. All of your priests, I'm showing you their wickedness. I'm showing you that all your leaders and your prophets and your princesses, I am showing you by the word of Yah, by drawing out the light, showing you the darkness in them, the treachery, the manipulation, the arrogance, the lies, the manipulation. Yah showing it to you all day long. He's showing you the error and the treacherousness of your leaders, but you don't have no shame, so you still accept these leaders. I have cut off nations. Their battlements are desolate. I have made their streets wait. He said, I'm cutting off nations. What is he talking about? We are the nations that he's cutting off within the nations that we dwell because of this. We are the ones that our streets are going to be laid waste so that no one passes by. This is the prophecy of when Yah says, I'm going to bring my wrath on Israel first. I'm going to judge the house of Israel for their wickedness. For they have not even kept the commandments of me, neither have they kept the laws and the statutes and the commandments of the nations that I sent them in. So he's going to send the nations against you to cut you off within the nations. He said, when I see you squirming in your blood, O Israel, yes, I'm going to say live, but no one passes by. No one passes by you. Their cities are destroyed so that there is no man, so that there is no inhabitant. I said, just fear me and receive correction. In Israel today, they don't want to see correction. This is the arrogance, so that her dwelling won't be cut off. If you would fear Yah, O Israel, if you would just fear him, that is the beginning of wisdom. But he said, I correct those that I love. I will draw you unto me, but I will not leave you all together unpunished, but I will correct you in measure. But y'all that think that you're going to approach Yah, you don't want no correction. So he says, please do this, Israel. I beg you, fear me, receive correction so that you won't be cut off. According to all that I have appointed concerning her, Yah has declared what he's going to do to us. But they rose early and corrupted all their doings. Therefore, wait for me. Wait, says Yahweh, until the day that I rise up for the prey. Wait and watch wait till you see and watch what I do to these leaders. Watch what I do to the prey. I'm going to prey on the prey. I'm going to hunt. And Yah said, I'm going to send fishermen first, and then I'm going to send the hunters. And it's coming on the leadership and the elders. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms. So Yah is going to gather the nations and assemble the kingdoms where we live, and to pour on them, to who? To Israel, my indignation, even all my fierce anger. This is the wrath of Yah, and it comes on Israel first. The nations are not going to get their determination and their indignation until he uses them to pour it out on us, because we are stubborn and we refuse to receive correction. For all the earth will be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Now, in verse 9, what is this talking about? What did Yah just declare is the wickedness in Israel? What is the upside downness of Israel that he has to turn upside right? For then, right? For when? When he does this, when he pours his wrath on us, right? So what did Yah declare that Israel must do, right? What is Yah's jealousy? First of all, he's jealous for his remnant, his elect, and he's jealous over his name's sake, which is his reputation. And we are the ones that profaned his name all day long, not just by not using it or replacing it with another name, but using it, but not in truth and not in righteousness. This is the profaning, and Yah's jealousy for this. He's going to pour out his heat and his passion on us for doing this, right? So what is that? What does it mean to profane Yah's name? For then I will purify the lips of the peoples, that they may call on the name of Yah to serve him with a unified or one shoulder. What does that mean? Yah said that in the time of your tribulations, will the nations come up against you, which they will, because Yah determined it. All he who calls out my name, I will hear. But Yah already determined when will he hear. Does it just mean that you can pronounce his name and he hears you? No. What do you have to do for Yah to hear you? You must purify your heart and return to him and confess. So he said from over, and I even put the Hebrew in here, y'all can go look it up. This word means me'aval. Me'aval. The word aval is the root three-letter word from where the word Hebrew comes from. Ivrit, abal, right? It means to cross over water, the waters, right? So listen, he said from passing over, from aval, which means to change your language into a water of life. The rivers or the streams of Cush. What is Cush? Let me give you a map of what Cush is today. Let's get some understanding. Hold on. This is a map, and this is ancient Cush. This is the ancient Cushite Empire, right? And Cush is not just Ethiopia as we know it. Cush was what we call modern day Sudan, southern Egypt, right? All the way in Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, even down into Kenya, and also in Yemen and Ophir, right? All the way into Mecca. This was the Cushite Empire, right? The Cushite Empire that also equals Dedan and Sheba. So I'm going to show you when he says that you're going to pass over the rivers of Cush. He's not talking about the Nile River here, right? Yes, I'm going to show you that we're scattered all over Africa. We're scattered all over Egypt. We're scattered all in Saudi Arabia. We're scattered in the isles of the seas of the Gentiles. We're scattered in Israel. I'm going to show you where Yah said we're crossing over from. But most of us, O house of Judah, is coming out of Africa. But when he said you will cross over the rivers of Cush, he's not talking about the Nile River. He's talking about the Red Sea. The Red Sea. I'm going to prove it to you. He's talking about the Red Sea, not the Nile River. Right? So you got these Bantu African spiritualists trying to play on this. Not that we're not coming, not that we haven't been scattered to all the nations, right? We have been scattered. But I showed you, right, that a lot of us that are going to flee, the 1/3 that makes it out of the Americas, 1/3, most of y'all, not all of y'all, most of y'all, because you didn't listen to the word of God, you didn't listen to the prophets, are going to wind up being scattered in Africa. Why? In Egypt and Cush. Why? Because what's happening now, you ain't got nowhere else to go. The way the borders are closing up now, you are being strained and tunneled into a distinct land. Because you waited last minute to get within the borders of this land. So you're going to have to be scattered through Africa again. And I showed you the prophecy that when your return is, most of y'all are returning to Africa. Right? And so he said, from beyond or from over the rivers of Cush. What are the rivers of Cush? The Red Sea, coming all the way up to here, and this is what they call the Valley Rift, right here. This is the Valley Rift that separates the tectonic plates from the African plate to the Arabian plate, going all the way up to the Red Sea, all the way up, splitting Palestine, Israel, and Jordan. Right? So why? So I showed you in the prophecy that Yah said that he's going to split these rivers all the way up here, and we crossing over. We crossing over, and he's going to create an earthquake in these areas by this sea, this river. All right? So like he said, and I'm going to prove it to you by the word of Yah, that when he says over the rivers and the streams of Cush, he does not mean the Nile River, the white or the blue Nile. He's talking about the Red Sea. Watch the prophecy. Stop letting people interpret what they want to interpret and let the scriptures interpret itself. Keep listening to the word, not to the man. From over the rivers or the streams of Cush, my suppliant, worshipers, or my incense. The word is atar, and it's another word for the pure fragrance, the sweet smelling offerings and incense to Yah. Why is that he has to purify our lips in order for this to happen and to cross over the waters, right? Which is a baptism of, what is the baptism about? The baptism is about purifying your heart and repentance and confession. And what did he say about confession? That you should confess and get baptized in the name of who? In Zombie? No. In Bantu language? No. He said in Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh Yahweh and Yah Yahushua and the Holy Spirit, Malik Yahweh. And when you purify your heart, you are baptizing, you are passing over the waters to purify your heart and get rid of the sinful nature and die again to the dead man, right? So he says, Atar. What is the incense, y'all? It's the pure prayer of the heart. It's a pure prayer when you worship him in the pureness of your heart. How do you do that when you cross over these waters? What does that mean? I just explained, right? The daughter of my dispersed or shattered people, because we are in the dispersed and the shattering. I said there's one more scattering of Israel. I showed you prophetically that Yah said I'm going to shatter Israel again, and will be led or carried along my offering. So we are going to be led and we are going to be carrying along his offering. The minchat, right? The minchat is the grain offering, the wheat offering. So what is that? The first fruits, right? And so I already explained to you that when we come out of the Babylon, America's 1/3 is coming out according to the prophecy. But in Isaiah and Amos, it tells you that out of that 1/3, Yah is going to put us through the fire, through the sword, and more scattering and shattering through Africa and through the other nations that are left. There's another cleansing, right? There's another cleansing and separating what? The grain offering. So he said 1/10 is coming out of that. 1/10. And the 1/10 is the grain offering, y'all. And that is the first fruits. That is the first fruits. And we are the first fruits, the ones that are raised from the living dead and not in zombie. In that day, you will not be ashamed for all your evil deeds in which you have transgressed or rebelled against me. For then I will take out away of you in the midst of you, your proudly exalted ones, right? So the proudly exalted ones are the ones that continue to transgress and do evil deeds, and the rebels. And I told you that even though that in Israel, all the way in Babylon, that many of us are going to come out, we still got the wheat with the tear, but we're going to be left with the wheat, y'all, the grain. We still got the chaff with the wheat, and he has to now sift us through these nations, through Africa, and only his grain is going to cross over these waters. What waters? Nile River? No, the Red Sea, right? For I will take away out of the midst of you your proudly exalted ones, and you will no more be haughty in my holy mountain. But I will leave in the midst of you an afflicted and poor and lean people, and they will take or seek refuge in the name of Yah. The remnant, the leftover of Israel, will do no iniquity, nor speak lies, falsehood, deceptive thing, neither will a deceitful, fraudulent, or loose tongue be found in their mouth. That's what it means when he says, I will purify your lips. I will return a purified language, tongue, lips. He just showed you what the unpurified language, tongue means. Let's go back. Let's get some. We won't receive correction. We won't hear the words of Yahweh Elohim. We won't do justice. We are oppressing, city, rebellious, and polluted. Why? Because we are lying to the people and making merchandise of him. That means that we're doing false and treacherous deals and lying business, right? Just for money. Our prophets are arrogant. That means we're speaking falsehood against Yah's words, and we're treacherous. We're falsifying and lying to each other and not being honest, and there's no judgment amongst ourselves, and the priests are profane, and we're doing violence. We're lying on Yah's word, right? So this is a wicked heart. And so therefore, Yah has to purify our heart, to purify our speech one to another, so that when we call upon the name of Yah in this time of scattering, oppression, and separating line between the chaff and the wheat, the ones that are left over, the remnant from this, the rebels that he will remove from amongst us, the leftover, as he removes the rebellious, we will speak no more lies, falsehood, deceptive thing. Neither will a deceitful, fraudulent tongue be found in our mouths. And that's what he means when he says, I'm going to return a pure language. He's not talking about Bantu. He's not really even talking about the language of Arabic, Ivrit, or any other Shemitic language. He's talking about speaking and calling on him with a pure heart. but he did declare what his name is in heaven above and on earth beneath. And there's no other name that you're going to call, because Yahweh is not Hebrew. It is the name that was given in heaven. It is the name that was given on earth and under earth, that all mankind, angels above and dead zombies beneath, must call. It's not Hebrew. For they will feed or pastured flock and lie down, and no one will make them afraid or tremble. Shout, O daughter of Zion, shout, Israel, be glad and rejoice with all your heart. Yahweh has taken away your judgments. He has faced your enemy. The King of Israel, Yahweh, is in the midst of you. Now he's in the midst of you. You will not be afraid or evil anymore. In that day it will be said to Jerusalem, don't be afraid, Zion. Don't let your hands be weak. Yahweh, your Elohim, is in the midst of you, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with joy. He will calm you in his love and mercy and kindness. He will rejoice over you with singing. I will remove those from among who cause grief and afflict you. That's our leadership, y'all. That's our wicked leadership and our evil amongst us. That's the wheat from the tare. That's not the nations. From the assembly, right? From the assembly or the appointed feast. What did he say about your leaders and your prophets? That all they do is feast and revel with you from year to year. They go around in a circle from year to year, feasting with you, right? To do what? Make merchandise of you, make money off of you, right? They cause you grief and affliction because they're here to make you poor and needy and leave you with nothing and not leading you the way you should go. They are a burden and a reproach to you, O Israel. Behold, at that time I will deal with all those who afflict you, and I will save those who are lame and gather those who were driven away. That's right. There's another driving away, y'all. I will give them praise and honor, whose shame has been in all the land. At that time, I will bring you in, and at that time I will gather you, for I will give you honor and praise among all the peoples of the earth. When I restore your fortunes before your eyes, says Yah. What's our fortunes that he's going to restore? What's the treasures that he said that we should hold fast to? What's the silver and the gold and the rubies and the pearl and the diamonds? What's the treasure that he's going to restore to us? The word of Yah, the righteous judgments, precepts, and commandments of Yah. He's going to restore to us, because them Africans ain't going to give it to you. Neither is our leaders in Babylon. So, a pure tongue, a pure language, a pure speech means a clean heart, that we speak to each other in sincerity, clearness, truth, honesty, and with justice and righteous judgment. Psalms 19, verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of Elohim. The heavens declare the glory of Elohim. The expanse shows his handiwork. So that word is bishamayim, the heavens, the fiery waters, right? What purifies water but fire? And the expanse is the firmament, which is also the clouds, which is the waters that are spread abroad. These are the waters that he's declared his glory. For he said, I'm a spirit that rides on the face of the waters. And my word has gone out as spirit, and it is a fire, and it creates. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Who's speaking? The waters of Yah. The living waters of Yah is speaking from where he dwells. And night after night, they display knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their voice has gone out through all the earth, their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tent for the sun, which is a bridegroom coming out of his room. What's the bridegroom coming out, y'all? What is this heaven and the expanse and the fiery waters that go forth? What is that word that goes forth that is declared amongst the waters, that speaks, that is heard? That is the thundering and the lightning of Yah. Yahushua said, I'm coming like 1,000 suns, like a fire to burn and cleanse and purify the earth. Like a strong man rejoicing to run his course. His going forth is from the end of the heavens. His circuit is to its end. There is nothing hidden from his heat. Yahweh's law is perfect. That's what it is. Restoring the soul. That's the speech. That's the fiery waters. That's the power and the glory. That has what's been declared. That's the speech that we ought to speak in sincerity and truth. Yahweh's law is perfect, not culture, not spirituality. He said his law is spiritual. Yah's law is perfect, restoring the soul. Yah's testimony, his written words that have been written by the prophets, is sure, making wise the simple. Yah's precepts are right, rejoicing the heart. Yah's commandments is pure, enlightening the eyes. And the fear of Yah is clean, enduring forever. Yahweh's ordinance are true and righteous altogether. So don't tell me about the elders. Don't tell me about your prophets. I don't want to hear them because they're lying bastards. They don't speak the precepts of Yah. They're not speaking the perfect law of Yah. They are not speaking the testimony of Yah. They're not speaking the wisdom and the precepts of Yah. They are not speaking the pure commandments of Yah. I don't want to hear them. The fear of Yah is clean, enduring forever. Yah's ordinances are true and righteous altogether. And he wrote them down. And then if anyone wants to dismantle the book of Yah and say it don't say what it's saying, we don't need the book, you a liar. And the truth ain't in you. Because if they speak not according to the law, if they speak not according to the testimony or the commandments, there's no light in them. They're leading you into darkness and everlasting darkness at that. More to be desired than gold. That's the treasures that he's going to restore to us, y'all. They are more to be desired than gold. Yes, much fine gold, sweeter also than honey, and the extract of a honeycomb. What did he say? I want to return you to the land of milk and honey. And milk is the substance, the base of your nourishment, right? The foundation to grow you up from a tender plant, right? To grow you up and wean you into adulthood from a child to an adult. But honey is sweet and it gives you the energy of life. And that honey is the everlasting promise. It's the life of everlasting life. Moreover, and Yah's words, not righteous, not spirituality, right? Not customs. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. This is how we are warned of Yah. In keeping them, there is great reward. Who can discern his errors? Who can judge rightly but by the word of Yah? Forgive me from my hidden errors. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I will be upright. I will be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Here it is. For let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable. That is the incense that goes up, that he must accept in your sight, O Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. For the chief musician, a psalm by David. Jeremiah 23. What does it mean that he shall restore pure language? Right? I have heard, I'm in Jeremiah 23 and 25. I have heard what the prophets have said with their mouths, who prophesies lies in the name of Yah, right? Saying, I have had a dream. I had a dream or an inspiration or a vision. How long shall it be in the hearts of these prophets who prophesize lies with their lips? Even the prophets of the deceit of their own heart, who think to cause my people to forget my name, my reputation by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. Did they not know Yahweh's name? No, he just said that they prophesied in Yah's name, right? That's what we got going on. We got people that say Yahweh or Yahweh or Yehovah, the version that they believe, right? They say Yah, they'll say Yahoshua or Yahshua, but you will quickly see them, right, in their visions and aspirations lead you towards Baal. Sheneke, Lord, God, Jesus, Christ, and zombie, whatever other name, whatever other name that they want to come to, right? Deus. They'll lead you and they'll have the name of Yah in their mouth and inspire you with a vision or dream in the name of another God. And this is how you can forget Yah's name. Not that you forgot how to say it. You forget the reputation that he's declared with his mouth by his testimony of what he said you should do, how I'm going to lead you, right? And if any prophet comes speaking anything else but what Yah said, damn them, right? This is Yah's word. Who think to cause my people to forget my name, my reputation, the great wonders that I said I'm going to do by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. They tell you that Baal at the same time also represented Yahweh. And zombie don't mean Yahweh. The prophet who has a dream, let him tell a dream. And he who has my words, let him speak my words faithfully, truthfully, honestly. What is the straw to the wheat? That's the wheat, y'all. That's the manna. That is the 10th. That is the wheat grain offering, the first fruits that's going to cross over those waters. But the rest of that is nothing but straw that's going to burn away, y'all. It has no substance in it. They're just speaking straw out of their mouth. And it had straw, trying to turn straw into gold, y'all. But it has no fortune for you. Says Yahweh, is it my word like fire? Says Yahweh, and like a hammer that breaks the rocks in pieces. Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, because they steal my words. Yes, they're stealing Yah's words. That's what you got with all these leaders, right? That's coming out the Christian church, even the African spiritualists. I don't care where they are. If they in France, they in Africa, if they in the Middle East, they in Israel, they in America, it don't matter. If they in Brazil, they in Portugal, Canada, they're stealing Yah's words, right? Because Yah's the only one to declare it. They got to catch you with a hook and crook. And they got to use Yah's book because don't nobody got the testimony of such great wonders and power, but the book and the testimony of Yah. So they'll use Yah's book. They'll use the words of the prophets. They'll steal Yah's words and twist them. Everyone from his neighbor. And what they're doing is stealing Yah's words. And I'm going to show you more false prophets that continue to steal Yah's words from their neighbors because Yah didn't tell them nothing. Yah didn't show them nothing. Yah didn't speak to them. And Yah didn't show them nothing. But what did talk to them is Baal maybe have talked to them. A goat maybe talked to them. A cow might have talked to them. A dead zombie might have talked to them. But it wasn't Yah. Behold, I'm against the prophets, said Yah, who use their tongues and say Yah said. Behold, I'm against those who prophesy lying dreams, says Yahweh, and do tell them and cause my people to err by their lies and by their vain boasting of what they're going to do for you and the wonderful aspirations of getting land and getting property and building community in Babylon and coming back to Africa to your African spirituality and roots and returning to your language. When he said, I said, return to me, return to the wilderness of the peoples. I didn't send them, nor did I command them, neither do they profit these people at all. Says Yah, all what they're teaching you to do is not going to profit you because Yah's wrath is going to tear it all up and show you there's no foundation in what they're teaching you because it's not according to Yah's words. It's not according to his testimony. So a pure language, once again, is a pure heart. Proverbs 20:2, the tongue of the righteous is like choice silver. The heart of the wicked is of little worth. Proverbs 4:23, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it is the wellspring, the rivers, the waters of life. So you must pass over the waters and baptize into purity and cleanness and become a new man. You must evolve. You must ibrit. Put away yourself a perverse mouth. Put corrupt lips far from you, O Israel. Matthew 24, a tree recognized by its fruit. 33, make Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by its fruits. What does this mean? Your offspring, you offspring of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? What is good is coming out your mouth? As I showed you, these vipers and snakes that are using Yah's word attach themselves onto Israel, but yet they want to divert you to another power. They want to divert you from the laws and the statutes of Yah. Yah is showing you all day long righteousness. He's revealing these vipers and snakes. But oh Israel, will you stay stubborn and blind? Will you have no shame? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good man out of his good treasures. What treasures? What good treasures? The word of Yah he must speak, bring out good things. And the evil man out of his evil treasures bring out evil things. All that speaks against the word of Yah. I tell you that every idle word that men speak, they will give an account for of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. And I just showed you the words of 3 lying Canaanite bastards amongst us, that I'm telling you that they're condemned already by their lying, evil words. Okay, so moving on to that. No other name. No other name. So before I get into the no other name, as I showed you, we got some lying bastards that have infiltrated Canaanites. I'm going to speak to that more as I already spoke to it. But they want to play this game with the language, right? I haven't gotten to it yet, right? With the language, they want to play this game with the language, saying Bantu is the first language. But let me speak to this, y'all. Let me speak some common sense to y'all. Do you notice that when they're trying to prove that they are the first language, they will take a Hebrew word, find a word in the Bantu dialects, and try to find the similarity in their word to a Hebrew word. It's not that they are comparing Hebrew to Bantu, but they are trying to compare Bantu to Hebrew. Who's the first? Does that make any sense, people? So let me give you a little history, right? Let me give you a little history about the Bantu language, right? So I'm going to say it again. The Bantu is not a language. It is a family group, right? That has a family of languages, right? I want to explain to you. Sorry about that. Hold on. Right? They have a family of languages, right? And so their languages extend all the way from the Niger Congo, right? And it's called Proto-Bantu. It's really Niger Congo languages, and it's called the Proto-Bantu, right? And in the Proto-Bantu, which this woman wants to say is the ancient Bantu, right? It's the Proto-Bantu, which is the Niger Congo languages, right? In these Niger Congo languages that extends all the way to West Africa, the African that he wants to disconnect himself to, this Jonathan Chilombo, right? And in these Bantu family groups, there are about 250 intelligible languages within them, meaning comprehensible to speak and to reteach. In that, there are almost 600 dialects, right, within those. And there's about 1,500, 600 different blends of the Bantu languages that have crisscrossed between what? Influences of other African languages, Kushite languages, influenced by Arabic, Portuguese, and French. Off bat, that is Babylon 1000. Because even when Yah split off the languages and created confusion, he only split off 72, y'all. But when you got a umbrella of languages, right, that extend from thousands of dialects, this is not, what can you say about this language that makes you believe that this is intelligible, right, language to speak, and it's the original language that you should return back to? right? Let me tell you something, African American. You will never learn Bantu. You can choose one of a Bantu language and go learn it in the university, one of the intelligible ones. But even between the Bantu languages, let me tell you something, that they are not congruent. What makes them a family group of languages is not the definitions. What makes Bantu a family umbrella of languages is one, the noun grammar, which has 19 classes, right? So the noun grammar means that they use in prefixes and suffixes with whatever their root system is, which is not congruent between one language to the next, not the same root. The grammar, so like in Hebrew, what we have is a 7 noun grammar class, right? So that 7 noun grammar class is something like I, you, right? You masculine, you feminine, right? They masculine, they feminine. We, them masculine and feminine, right? So that's something like Spanish, I believe, has something similar to that. But the Bantu languages has 19, right? 19. I don't believe that noun grammar classes of conjugation, right? The tone patterns is also the tonality. The classes of prefixes, the consonant vowels, right? How they end and finish either with a consonant or a vowel, but they are not congruent, y'all. Only a few of the Bantu languages within a class group can even communicate with each other because they are not the same language. It is a class group of how the grammar is similar, but not the language. Only some of them are similar. So let me correct that. Let me make that clear again. The Bantu language is not a language. It's a group class based upon their grammatical way of conjugation, consonant vowels, and tone patterns, but they are not the same language. They are not congruent, and they have been heavily influenced by Arabic, Portuguese, and French. Most of the Bantu languages don't have a written language any longer because they never had one. Only a few of them had written languages, right? Like the Mende people, right? They had some written language, right? Only a few of the ancient languages exist still to this day. But it was the Arabic that came and taught them to read and write and formulated some of their languages. But most of the Bantu languages today use English, Latin, phonetical alphabets. So you want to talk about pure Hebrew when your language does not even have a pure writing either, nor does it have a consonant root system that makes them the same language. Now, once again, like when we come to the nations, the Shemitic nations, when we come to Noah and his 3 sons, we know that Ham had 4 sons, even a 5th, Canaan, Mitzrayim, Put, right? And I might be missing one off the top of my head, right? Lud, right? And so all of the African tribes, whether it be from Canaan to Egypt to Cush to Sudan to wherever these African tribes have come, right, have a similar language, which came from Proto-Saharan Nubia, that also related to Egyptian hieroglyph, that I can prove to you that it has roots in not Samaria, but Assyria today, which Hebrew came out of, right? And the first written ancient language that they can prove existed in Africa today was the Kushite Empire. The Kushite Empire, right? The Kushite people. But I'm going to show you that the Kushite Empire also extended in Arabia today. Not Arabia, sorry. I keep saying Arabia. Extended all the way in Syria today, right? And so the Canaanite influence also was in the land of Shemitic people. So we use their lettering, perhaps, and of course perhaps, but it's a Shemitic language. It's not a Shemitic language. Bantu is not a Shemitic language. Let me help you understand what makes a language the Shemitic language, how they group Shemitic languages, right? The Shemitic Asiatic, what they call the Afro-Asiatic, right? It's not about a script. It's about the language. The Shemitic languages that makes it a group is based on a 3-root consonant system. A 3-root consonant system. And most of the Shemitic languages maintain the same 3 root, even though our grammar, the way we conjugate, may be different. The root of the language is the same. And so in Phoenician or in some of these Canaanite offshoots, even hieroglyphics may have similar words or a few words because there was an influence between the Canaanites, the Egyptians, and the Cushites between the Shemitic languages. They may have a few words that they loaned or borrowed. All languages have words that are loaned words and borrowed words from other languages, depending on who conquered them, right? That may sound similar to the Shemitic language, but let me tell you how you can see the folly in this comparing a Bantu word, not even the language, a word from this one and a word from that one and a word from that dialect, which is confusion. It's foolishness, y'all, right? There's no congruency in that. Just picking anything out of one dialect that may sound something similar to Hebrew. The reason why it's not Shemitic is because they're changing the meaning. But where Shemitic languages come from, the root value that has maintained in the Shemitic languages, the meaning remains the same, the root value. And it is derived from the Akkadian language, which the root value is the same. Small article. Like I said, I'm not going to exacerbate this. They over here telling you that Hebrew was lost. Hebrew was never lost. Hebrew was never, ever lost. It has a written record and it has a spoken record that was never lost, even in this land, y'all. Hebrew is not Yiddish recreated. They did not recreate Hebrew. So this is the story, but there's something in the story that I want you to understand, right? Hebrew was never lost. There was always a remnant of people in this land that spoke Hebrew. The European people that came from Germany did not recreate Hebrew. They just unified it for their people who didn't speak it. So, born in 1858, Ben Yehuda, all of us know this story, grew up in Belarus, formerly part of Russia Empire, when he started studying the Bible. At the age of 3, he started learning in the Cheder, a yeshiva for young children, where he learned ancient Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew that was never lost. By that time, he was 12. Ben Yehuda was familiar with large portions of Torah, Mishnah, and Talmud. Hoping he would become a rabbi, his parents sent him to yeshiva, where he continued studying Torah and ancient Hebrew. He did not recreate Hebrew, y'all. He didn't recreate it. In the following years, he learned French, German, Russian, and traveled to Dunbar, Latvia, for further education. With the rise of Jewish nationalism in the 19th century, Ben Yehuda was captivated by the innovative ideas of Zionism. While reading the Hebrew language newspaper Hashashar, he became acquainted with Zionism and concluded that the reviving of the Hebrew language in the land of Israel would unite all Jews worldwide. So in the land of Israel, there was different dialects, especially the European people was coming with German, Yiddish, whatever they were speaking, Turkish, Aramaic, the Samaritan dialect. There was no unification as they were trying to create the land of Israel, the state of Israel. Everyone was speaking different languages according to whatever. He said, and so in 1881, Ben Yehuda made Aliyah came to live in Jerusalem. And at that time, it was believed that one of the criteria needed to define a nation worthy, the same thing that y'all doing, of national rights was its use of a common language. That's all he did, y'all. He did not create Hebrew. He didn't reconstruct it. He formulated it in a way that can be taught to other people, spoken by both the society and the individual. In fact, Ben Yehuda regarded Hebrew and Zionism as one and the same, writing that the Hebrew language can live only if we revive the nation and return it to its fatherland. According to researchers, it appears that in the 50 years preceding the start of the revival, listen to this. Here's the point that I'm trying to make. That 50 years preceding the start of the revival process, the process in which he began to formulate it in a book to make it in a way, a dictionary that he can go and teach it to the rest of the world, to unify all people to speak it and learn it together. It already existed in the markets of Jerusalem. Where do you think he perfected it, right? Where do you think that we have different dialects of the Hebrew in this land? It was never lost. They did not recreate the language. They may have an accent on it that sounds European, but it's Hebrew. Just like y'all Negroes trying to speak Hebrew and you sound retarded. You sound like Chicago ghetto Ebonics when you speak it because you don't have the accent. But the language was never lost. It existed in the markets of Jerusalem amongst the minorities that were here. The Sephardic Jews who spoke Ladino or Arabic, or the Ashkenazi Jews who spoke Yiddish, needed a common language. That's all he did, y'all. He made it the national language for all people to speak for commercial purposes. And the most obvious choice was Hebrew. It should be noted that it was not a native mother tongue as such, but more of a pidgin. So, once again, Hebrew was never lost. It always maintained in this land. It never, ever was lost. It has a written script amongst the peoples that were here in the land before the Europeans came here. Bantu is not Shemitic. It has Shemitic influences because of Arabic. It's an African, Hamitic, perhaps Canaanite language. And it's confusion. I'm going to say it again. You don't have to know nothing about the language. The fact that they are pulling out a word from Lingala, pulling out a word from Kikongo, pulling out a word from this one, and pulling out a word from the Mende, and pulling out a word from the Jola, and pulling out a word from the Lamba, right? Just because they pull out a word from different languages or dialects among the Bantu umbrella does not mean that it's Hebrew. And how do you prove that that's the first language, the language of life that was given to our forefathers from Adam on down, by comparing it to Hebrew? That don't make no sense. How do you nullify a language when that's how you got to prove that it's the language? You got to use Hebrew. They're using Hebrew, y'all, to try to disprove Hebrew and to prove Bantu. That don't make no sense, y'all. Come on, y'all got to be smarter than that. Y'all got to be smarter than that. They cannot take out a full sentence in any Bantu language and compare it to Hebrew. They can't do it. Now, I've already spoken it before. I do not know Bantu language, right? But what I have done, as Jonathan Chilombo thinks he has me sized up, as I said before, I gave you my father's testimony, that I was brought up with that knowledge through him. But in my adult days, as I already said, I was Pan-African. I was performing the culture, the song, and the dance, which is the base and foundation of African spirituality from all of these tribes, y'all. Now, I did not perform in the Yoruba religion, right? I did not perform in just the West African, far West African across the Niger River religions and traditions. He got it really, really, really wrong, y'all. He got it really wrong. And so what I say, and I will show you perhaps proof, maybe in the other video when I recorded or another one, not right now, right? Because I have put down all these things, right? I still have connections with a lot of the companies and spiritual ancestors and the griots that maintain their spirituality. I was doing this for years in my professional life. I've traveled all over the world. I have sang songs in Bassa from Cameroon, and Kalongo, and Kongo, right? And Lamba, and Lingala, and the Igbo, and the Yoruba, and the Mandinka, and the Mbele, and Portugal, right? Brazil, right? From Bahia, Brazil, which has maintained a lot of the African spirituality from the Congo, right? And Dogon and Jola. I danced, sang songs, played instruments, and did African spirituality. And I know the difference. You're not talking to an amateur, y'all. I've done this for over 20 years of my life and traveled all over the world performing with great companies, y'all. From West Africa to the Congo, right? With Aruna Dumbele, from Burkina Faso, Angola Palmares, from Bahia, Brazil, from Kuluma, from here in Israel that had gotten his influence from the Mendenge, right? From the Congo boys in Congo. I know y'all know who that is. I used to teach and I used to dance Congolese dance, right? I did Congo and I did soukous. I know the traditions, y'all. I danced with Fuchsia Dance Company. That's a Congolese dance company from all over the world. I perform with these people. I know what it is. I can tell you better than you. I have done the African spirituality from Mali, from Burkina Faso, from Ghana, from Benin, from Cameroon, from Guinea, from Senegal, from the Congo, and from Brazil. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you now that ain't none of that of Yah. Ain't none of that of Yah. So, like I said, let's get to no other name. So one of the things you got to learn about linguistics, right, is that when it comes to a proper noun, linguistically, in this foundation of the rules, is based upon the one who's founding the rules of the language. So when it comes to proper noun, there's no one rule that describes how you translate a proper noun. But in general, proper nouns as a universal rule cannot be translated or the transliteration, which is the writing in another language, is there to help you read correctly how to pronounce the word in its own language, right? In its own language. And if the written language is not conveying the proper pronunciation, it's a mistransliteration, right? So he didn't say that there is no language in which my name or my word has not been written, but there is no language that it hasn't been written. He said there is no language in which my word have not been heard. We're human beings, y'all. We're not monkeys. So my name is Talia, right? Talia. Now people could say it's a Hebrew word. It means young lamb or the dew of Yah. That's a translation of what it means. But you don't take my name and Kikongo or Kiklongo or Lingala and make up a name that means young lamb and say, there it is. That's not my name, right? It's a proper noun according to the language that I speak that has power behind the language. So when I go to Congo and they ask me, what is your name? In whatever accent they would speak, I would say Talia. And I know what it sounds like when people from the Congo would say my name. And they would say, Talia. Right? Brazil, Talia. Spanish, Talia. English, Talia. That's a big strange, right? Here, Talia. Right? So people can play with the name based upon their accent. But guess how you learn to speak somebody's name right? You continue to say it. The more you hear it, that's how you learn, like a baby, how to renew your tongue and say it right. If I go to Japan, they may say Talia, right? But it's still Talia. It's Talia. The accent might change, right? But it's still Talia. You don't change my name, right? You don't call me Titi, Tati, Talia, no, you don't do none of that. It's Talia. But Yah has declared the rules of his words. He's declared the rules of his language, and he's declared the rules of his name. And he said, don't change it. And there's no place, there's no tongue. I didn't say written script. I said there's no tongue where his name cannot be spoken. Let's see. So you got people that want to play on the language thing and tell you, oh yes, Yambe, 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 and Zambe, Yambe, Yahweh, Yahweh, it's the same. No, it's not, y'all. No, it's not. So just to give you a pretext of all this confusion, through the Masoretic text, 7 different forms of the name can be found. The Masoretic text alone, each with its own pronunciation by changing it up by using different equates, right? That's right, I said 7 different forms in one book. Why is this, y'all? Because we already know that they wanted to keep Yah's true pronunciation away from you. We can easily see, based on the information above, how the Masoretics would have desired or even felt compelled to hide the true vowel pointing of the name. Let me show you everything that it is, that it isn't. Of the vowels that have revealed the true pronunciation of the name were placed vowels that one would find when pronouncing either Adonai or Adoni, as in Lord, or Elohim, that they translate as God. Here are the 7 different variations of the name that you can find in one book, one text, y'all. So you got Yehovah, 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 Yehowi, Yehwi, Yehowi, Yehwi, Yahuwah. But what you do not see is Yahweh, right? And these are the scriptures in the Masoretic text where you can see they mispointed all the vowels all the time to either point to the vowel systems of either Adonai, Adoni, Adonai, or Elohim, or Eloah, right? But what they did not point to is the correct pronunciation. So we got all these variations that has caused a lot of confusion just with Yah's name, right? Because they know the importance of each sound in Yah's name because it represents pattern and force. All right. So now we got all these variations outside of even the Masoretic text. And this is nothing but confusion. There's a whole lot more here that I didn't put down. I just can't. But let me tell you something when it comes to this in zombie. Don't think I don't understand the roots of this word in zombie. It does not mean Yahweh. It don't compare to Yahweh. It's not Yahweh. It's the deity of the dead, right? Because that word has been used all the way from the Congo, all the way down to Brazil, all the way to Haiti, from the very word that we get today called zombie. And it's the deity of the dead and the ancestors, right? Zombies. I know about Zumbi Quilombos, right? I know about the zombie in Haitian worship. And it's the same African spirituality that came from the Congo. The same one, y'all. Ain't no difference. So let me tell you something about worshiping. Y'all said all day long they sacrifice to devils and demons, believing that they're sacrificing to Yah. They're not sacrificing to Yah. They're not worshiping Yahweh. They're not praising Yahweh, right? They're profaning his name by mixing it up. But he said all day long they're sacrificing to give their supplications and their prayers to demons and devils. What are demons and devils? I don't care that if there's different ways that y'all worship demons and devils, it's still all dead man worship, right? You can call it ancestor worship. You can call it power worship, different gods, right? I don't care. Every demon got their own kind of way that it would actually do it like this. But where did these demons and devils that y'all said that Israel continues, that we picked up from the Hamitic people, worshiping them all day long and all night? Where did these demons and devils come from? These demons and devils are of the dead Nephilim. They are the spirits of the dead. And they come up and pretend to be your ancestors. They pretend to be powers. They pretend to be gods. They pretend to be Yahweh, but they are not. They are dead. And all of these demons that they want to replace Yah's name in whatever culture is not Yahweh. It is a dead zombie that they are worshiping. And I don't care if it looks different here and it looks different there. It's no different than what the Catholic Church is doing. It may take on a different form. It's the same spirituality. And it's the spirituality of worshiping the dead and the ancestors. So we got Yahweh, Yahweh, Yehovah, Yehovah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. This is a modern day confusion, right? Aside from what the Masoretic text did, this is idiots. Now, this is man that don't know the language trying to put their hands on it. Then we get all the way to Yahuwah, right? Yahweh, Yah. And messing up Yehoshua's name is Yeshua, Yesha, Yahushua, Yahawashai, Yasha, Yashaya, even Yezi, and there's 1,000 other more foolishness trying to transliterate his name. But let me tell you what it's not, y'all. What it's not. We could even reconcile with some of this, right? This is just ignorant, right? Ebonics at play, right? Just ignorant people that presume to know something that they don't know. But for somebody to come along and convince you that in zombie is Yahweh, y'all are out your mind. How dumb can you be? So I'm gonna reiterate this again. In zombie, Shineke, Shinere, Olorum, God, none of that equate to Yod Hewahe, Yahweh, Yahweh. That represents the breath of life, eternal time. Everybody has a most high. Every spiritual pantheon has a most high. And then they got their lesser gods underneath. But only Yahweh is the most high power. So when you want to say, is zombie a proper name? Or is it just a title? Because if it's just a title, then it can't be Yahweh. But Most High don't cut it. Most High who? Most High who? Yahweh is the Most High power. No other name. All of y'all, how you let these people run this gamut on you? You done came out of Jesus. You done, some of y'all still saying Christ and Lord, but you supposedly came out of that. You're still carrying the same spirit from the church, which is nothing but necromancy to dead man spirits. To read these words and don't hold fast to the truth. Acts 4, no other name, y'all. 10, be it known to you all and to all the peoples of Israel that in the name of Yahushua, the Messiah of Nazareth, and nothing else was written, who you crucified, whom Elohim raised from the dead, and him does this man stand here before you whole, not no zombie. He is the stone which was regarded as worthless by you, the builders, which has become the head of the corner. There is salvation in no other. For neither is there any other name under heaven that is given among men by which you must be saved. Y'all, that's as clear as day. All right. Philippians 2 and 8. And being found in human form, who? Yahushua, though he was not human, he was Elohim. He humbled himself, becoming obedient to death. Yes, the death of the crossbeam or the stake. Therefore, Elohim also highly exalted him. So you got these Klingons, right? Issachar and his wife telling you that don't get hung up about saying Yahweh correctly, right? Because they done read in Psalms where it says, I have exalted my word above my name, right? My word I have exalted above the name Yahweh. So don't get hung up about Yahweh. Okay, you don't want to get hung up about Yahweh, but when he said I exalted my word, what is he talking about? Who's the word, y'all? What was the word, the Duval, right, that was spoken in the wilderness? Was it in zombie or was it Yahushua? What did he exalt above his name, y'all? When he says, I exalted my word above my name. The name that he exalted, even above his own name, Yahweh, was Yahoshua, which was the word. Yahoshua. That is the word that he exalted above his name, because when you say Yahushua, you glorify and you exalt the Father and the Son. So therefore Elohim highly exalted him. Who's him? The word. And gave to him. Who's him? Yahushua, who was the word. The name which is above every name. That's the one he exalted, y'all. That's the word that he called out in the wilderness that was highly exalted above Yahweh. Because he put all power, all authority in the name of Yahushua. That at the name of Yahushua, not the idea, not the transliteration, at the name of Yahushua, every knee should bow, of those in heaven, those on the earth, and those underneath the earth. So I declare to you that this dead zombie, when Yahushua calls the dead, right, the righteous and the wicked, and zombie may rise when he hears the name Yahushua. And when he rises, as he's nothing but an evil dead spirit, y'all's gonna throw him back in the everlasting fire. And that every tongue, every language should confess, and the word confess means speak with your mouth, that Yahushua, the Messiah, is Yah, to the glory of Elohim, the Father. Joel 2:32, call on the name. So this is where he said, I'm going to pour out his spirit on all flesh that call on his name. It will happen that whoever or all that will call Yikre, which means to call out with your mouth. This is not just think with your mind. This is not feel it with your heart. Call literally means speak it with your tongue. On the name of Yahweh shall be saved, delivered, or escape. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there will be those who escape, as Yahweh has said, and among the remnant, those whom Yahweh has called. So I tell you again, how do you know who's Israel? All those that Yah has called. And those that Yah has called is going to call him in return by his name, and that's Yahweh. So as I said before, y'all, there are Canaanites amongst us. There are Canaanites amongst us. How do you know that there are Canaanites amongst us? I'm going to show you if I haven't already, but let me speak to this just a little bit about this Canaanites amongst us, right? Canaanites amongst us, y'all. Klingons. And I've showed you 3. Open your eyes, people. Open your eyes. So in Zechariah 14:15-21, Yah says that there's going to be Canaanites amongst us to the very dividing line, infiltrating Israel, pretending to be us. What is this thing about Canaan? Why is this important to identify who a Klingon is, right? A Canaanite, someone that looks human but is not, right? Because Bantu, you can claim it to be the first language on the earth, because I'm telling you that there were people on this earth that wasn't Adam. But it's not the first language of humankind from Elohim in the image. It's not the language that came out of heaven. So in the prophecies, I've already showed you and declared through Yah's prophecy that he said it wasn't just Israel that was going to be scattered. It wasn't just Israel that went into slavery. And it wasn't just Israel that will become a perpetual hissing and a snare and a byword to all the nations that they will serve. It was prophesied that even the Hamitic people, even Canaanite, would be a servant of servants. The Canaanite people, the Egyptian people, and the Syrians and the Cushite people, all the peoples of Africa, and all the peoples that were surrounded around the Shemitic languages and tribes also went into slavery with us by the time that the Romans, the Greeks and the Romans had conquered. It wasn't just the Israel thing, y'all. They conquered and sold people all over Africa and Northeast Africa and in the Arabian Peninsula right, into the Africas and into the world. And so what we would call the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade, that was a runoff from the Islamic slave trade, right? That was a runoff from the Assyrian slave trade. That was a runoff from the Roman and Greek slave trade, right? In the story, we got Egyptians that went into slavery with us. So all black people are not Israel. We have Assyrians that went into slavery with us. We have Cushites, right, that went into slavery with us. We have Put, right, which is Libya, that went into slavery with us. We have Canaan, who went into slavery with us. And because of the curse of Canaan, the slave of slaves shall you be, right? Yah had told us that we was to destroy Canaan and all of Canaan's seed for good, but we didn't do that when we went into the land. So what did Yah say? He said that they will always be a thorn on your side. The Canaanites stole our land. Perhaps I will do that story about the curse of Canaan, the story of Shem, of Noah and his 3 sons, what took place, because not too many people still understand what took place. Why was Canaan cursed? What actually happened? Y'all still think that it was some homosexuality, sex between father and son. No, it wasn't. Y'all have no idea what took place, right? And so there was a curse that was put on Canaan, but that curse continued because Canaan actually stole the land of his brothers. And if you read the division of the 3 sons of Noah, there was an oath that was made by Noah and his 3 sons, and even Canaan, and a division by lot of whose land was who, right? This is another way to prove, y'all, where Israel is and where Hamitic tribes were, the African tribes. But Canaan, which was a Hamitic tribe that had to cross over Shemitic land, entered into our land and stole it. They never left because it was a good land and claimed it to be the land of Canaan, but Yah didn't give it to them. So there was an everlasting curse on Canaan for stealing our land, because the oath that they had made between father and 3 sons was that whoever enters into the next man's land, they will die complete, they will be slaughtered. So it's not just that Canaan had now worshiped idols and gods, right, and intermixed their seed with demonic forces. It's also that they broke the oath, and the oath had required that all of them die because they stole their brother's land, which was Shemitic land. The story of Judah and his Canaanite wicked wife and Tamar was also a classic story of how Canaan understood the blessing and the inheritance of Israel, and they also tried to steal Israel's inheritance. And Canaan to this day still wants to block Israel from maintaining their inheritance. Canaan was a conquering nation that went all through Africa and infiltrated African countries, right? Canaan was cursed, so they intermingled their seed, and they tried to conquer other Hamitic and Shemitic tribes to pollute the division of inheritance and to stop the kingdom of Israel from going forward. Yah said, because when we entered into the land, we made deals with Canaan, the Perizzites, the Gergesites, the Jebusites, and all of them. We didn't kill them all the way Yah had commanded us to. So he said, I'm going to leave them there as a thorn on your side always until the end of time. So Yah said that the Canaanites would now be a thorn on our side to the end of time. That means that they have attached themselves to us everywhere we go to make sure that we never return back to our rightful inheritance, our rightful power, our rightful creator, our rightful throne, and our rightful treasure, and our rightful land. Because they was mad, because they got scattered and kicked off the land. So where do you think Canaan went? Most of the tribe that Yah scattered when Yah went before them. They weren't all killed. He scattered them out the land. Where do you think they went? Into the interior of Africa, y'all. They went to the interior to continue their African Canaanite behavior there, worshiping their gods and ancestors and spirits and demons and devils and sacrifices, their African spirituality. That's where they went, y'all. All right. Zachary, you don't believe me? I'm making this up. I'm just saying this. How do you know who's a Canaan? I'm going to show you who the Canaanites are, right? And please listen carefully to them, because they came coming out. Now that they know that I've spoken, right, Yah's true judgments against this stuff, and they think that I don't know and understand this stuff, right? They want to speak out and now come out with their Mandingo warrior brave speech now, right? I'm glad that they're on the offense and they want to speak now their whole truth. Come out with it. Please come out with it. Speak your truth or forever hold your peace. But don't lie to the people. Tell them what you're about and what you're really trying to wheel them into, Jonathan Chilumbo. Tell them clearly that you are the influence of Issachar's ministry today that's taking our people back to Boogalooga, Bantu foolishness, idol worship, and ancestors. You're the one that's influencing him. I've had many letters, y'all, letters of people writing me about Issachar and writing me about this Jonathan Chilumbo and his Pastor Mello, who are nothing but Christians coming out from Catholicism, mixing it with African spirituality, right? Feeding that to our people and playing upon the history, talking about all 12 tribes is in the Bantu people. That's not even according to the word, y'all. That's crazy. That's funny, right? Listen carefully to what they say and you make a judgment. See if you got any shame to hear y'all's words, or you want to listen to these lying, slick bastards that know y'all so gullible for some culture right now that y'all eat anything, right? You're not gullible for righteousness. You're gullible for some culture and identity. Foolishness. Y'all, they're going to have you speaking boogalooga, ooga mooga, and y'all don't even know what you're talking about. Zechariah 14:15-21. There's Canaanites amongst us. They will be a thorn at our side until the very end, y'all. That means they've attached themselves onto us. They look like us. Their spirituality, their practices maybe look similar to what it is, but it ain't us, because they're not worshiping Yahweh. They're worshiping demons and devils and dead spirits and ancestors. All nations will worship the king. One king, y'all, one king. 16. It will happen that everyone who is left of all the nations that came against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the king, Yahweh of Zebaot, of armies, and to keep the feast of tents. So every nation that is left after he destroys the armies of the world that came up against Israel, the nations that are left and survive, he's going to enforce y'all to come up and worship at the Feast of Booths and bow down to Yahushua, who's in heaven. It will be that whoever of all the families of the earth, Africans too, doesn't go up to Jerusalem to worship the king, Yahweh Zebaot, and on them there will be no rain. And when he says rain, that means instructions. The whole world will be a nuclear wasteland, a disaster place right now, after Yah finishes his wrath on the earth. And they will not have grain or crops or life abundant, early death, nuclear disaster, fallout waits. So Yah is going to send us to bring the light, the water of life, to be healing to the nations. And that's by the word of Yah, how to now reign on their land. That reign is called instructions. It's called spirit, the real spirit of Yah, the reign of heaven. And if the families of Egypt, even Egypt, that has been, sorry, before I finish, this is what I had to say. Yes. In prophecy, Egypt, Assyria, and Cush and Put, right? So Egypt is Egypt today. Assyria is Iraq and Iran, right? And Lebanon, and yeah, all the way to Lebanon. And Cush is Sudan, Eritrea. I just showed you what Cush is, right? Ethiopia, all the way down to Yemen and Northern Arabia. So, Southern Arabia. And Put, which is Libya and Tunisia, all the way up there in Algeria. But the end of Canaan, Yah said, I'm going to destroy Canaan altogether. This is why they attach to us and they fighting so hard to pull us towards their way to deceive Israel, right? Prophetically, Canaan will be totally destroyed. But these original African and Shemitic kingdoms, right, that have been a threat to us too, will be preserved. So let's get back to it. Where was I? So he says, I'm in 18, if the family, they have a choice, if the families of Egypt, which Egypt proper today, the true Egyptians is all over West Africa spread out, right? So when he's talking about the family of Egypt, he's not talking about just the land, but I will tell you through the scattering and the shattering that's and the destruction that's going to come upon the African continent after China and after Turkey and after Russia is finished with destroying Babylon, America. They're coming through the majestic land. They're coming through Africa, y'all. And they're going to scatter y'all from the west, back from where you originally came from. All of y'all going to flee over beyond the rivers of Cush. But some of y'all are not going to make or cross the rivers into the wilderness. So the families of Egypt that doesn't go up and doesn't come neither will it rain on them. This will be the plague in which Yahweh will strike the nations that don't go up to keep the feast of tents. They're going to be a dry wilderness, y'all, a wasteland. This will be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that don't go up to keep the feast of tents. So you can go to Africa, you can go to Zimbabwe, you can go to Botswana, you can go to South Africa, you can go to Congo, you can go to whatever African country you want to go to. But let me tell you what you're going to do in the end, oh Africa. Different African nations, all the way from the west to the east, to the north, to the south, to the center. You're going to come up and you're going to bow to Yahweh. And you're going to bow to our feet. And in that day, there will be on the bells of the horses, holy to Yahweh. And the pots in Yahweh's house will be like the bowls before the altar. We are the pots, y'all. We are the bowls, because we are the meat, the flesh of sacrifice that is burning of pure frankincense, of pure praise towards Yah. And everyone that comes up is going to do the same thing, will purify their pots. And every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holy to Yahweh Tzibaot. And all those who sacrifice will come and take of them and cook in them. And in that day, there will be no longer a Canaanite in the house of Yahweh Tzibaot, the host of the heavens, the army of all of the heavens. There will be no Canaanite amongst us, y'all. He's going to destroy them totally. And that's why they're trying to attach onto us right now, to divert you, because the beginning of Israel is the end of Canaan, an African tribe that is spread all over us and all over Africa. So how do you know who's the Klingon? I showed you. How do you know who's the Egyptian? How do you know the ones that return to that spirituality is how you know. Isaiah 11:9-6, the root of Jesse, and 1. A shoot will come out of the rock of Jesse, and a branch out of the roots will bear fruit. The spirit of Yahweh, not the spirit of other powers. There's no other power, no other spirit, but the spirit of Yahweh will rest on him. The spirit of wisdom and understanding, and the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yahweh. His delight will be in the fear of Yahweh. He will not judge by the sight of his eyes, neither decide by the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness he will judge the poor and decide with equity for the humble of the earth. Those are the ones that's going to survive. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he will kill the wicked. How powerful is the word Yahweh, the breath of life. Y'all, that's a consuming fire. Righteousness will be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his waist. So in his loins, the belt is the the ephod that is around his waist that covers his inner loins, his heart, his mind, and his soul. The wolf will lead the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat. The calf, the young lion, and the fatted calf together, a little child will lead them. The cow and the bear will graze. So when he's talking about these animals, what he's talking about, y'all? The cow and the bear will graze. The young ones will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox, right? What is he talking about? This is an idiom that Israel will have no other beast, which is the nations, that will harm us any longer. Nobody will harm us or threaten us. No beast, no animal, no dragon will harm us any longer. No wild animal will harm us any longer. The nursing child will play near a cobra's hole, and the weaned child will put his hand on the viper's den. And so when he says a little child would lead them, he's talking about the nations, right? And I showed you where in Isaiah that he said, I will take a little one, right? And send them to 1,000, and they will teach them. The roots of Jesse, I'm in 9. They will not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountains. So that's what that means. There will be no war, no pain, No sickness, no disaster, no nation is coming to harm us. No war. For the earth will be full of knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. It will happen in that day that the nations will seek the root of Jesse, not whatever this other incognito lion bastard that he's saying that walked around the Bantu tribe that Yahushua came back. This is y'all who stands as a banner of the peoples, and his resting place will be glorious. It will happen in that day that Yahweh will set his hand to gather a second time to buy or redeem the remnant or the leftover that is left of his people. Where are we left over from? From Assyria, from Egypt, from Patros, right? Patros, I believe, is low upper Egypt. From Cush, I just showed you the map. From Elam, which is Iraq, and from Shinar, Iraq and Iran, and from Hamath, same place, and from the Isles of the Sea, which is across the Mediterranean Sea, all the coastlands that remain. And he talked about that some of us are over there scattered. That's where the remnant is coming from. We're not coming just from Lingala land, y'all. We're not just coming from Bantu land. As I showed you, this is put, right? That's where we're coming from as well. We're scattered here. Because all of you Africans are going to wind up when they come through Africa. They ain't coming over, y'all. They coming over to take over. Can't you see them preparing that now? And this is where we're going to come. These are the nations that will survive. Not this part of Africa, y'all. Y'all better get out, right? So this is a little something about Cush. As I said that Cush, why does he talk about Assyria? Right now, Cush, like I said, there's evidence and there's historical evidence that even though the empire of Cush was known to be start in Africa and Arabia, in this part, this is the land of Cush. And Yah talks about the two nations of Cush, right, which is Dedan and Sheba, that's going to come up first with camels and worship us in the wilderness, right? But Cush in Mesopotamia as the first civilization, not Egypt, y'all. Cush or Cush, Mitzrayim's brother, first started the kingdom of Kish in Mesopotamia, because that's where all the brothers of Noah, the sons of Noah, came from. Then called the valley or land of Shinar. In the book of Genesis, written by Moses, the Hebrew vice pharaoh of Egypt descended from the Sumerian stock of Abraham via Eber, right? That's where we get the word Abar or Ivrit, and Peleg, the father of the Pelagians, one of the early tribes responsible for building many megalith structures all over the globe. Just a little something. Y'all can go look it up. Look up the word Kish. Look up this stuff. Go do the research. But I wanted to show you that Cush, when he says beyond the rivers of Cush, right, or from over the rivers of Cush, and why he's now saying in this prophecy that we're coming not just from this, not just from Put, Mitzrayim, and Cush, but he's saying that we're coming also from Assyria, right? That we're coming from Patros and from Elam and Shinar and Hamath, because this also was an ancient Cushite empire, and there's waters that we're going to have to cross over as well, right? So let me move forward. I'm going to show you that this is where Israel is scattered and where we're coming from. Iraq and Iran, the Cushite empire right here in Mesopotamia, right? This was the first civilization of Cush before they migrated across and settled here, which had the first written language even before Egypt. These are the sons of Noah. I'll use this in a later time, but I just want to let y'all understand, as they talk about all Africans ain't the same. No, they not ain't the same, but all Africans came from the Hamitic stock, right? And of course, as they split up into tribes or fathers and nations, then there was more tribal splitting, right? 72 nations. So we got Cush, where Nimrod came from, Sheba, Havilah, Sabta, Sabakta, Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. So Yah talks about how Cush, right, that Sheba and Dedan and Seba will be the first three nations out of Cush that will come up and worship us. Mitzrayim, we have Ludim, Ananim, Lehabanim, Naphtuim, Pahusim, Katorim, Kasulim, and Philistine, right? So who are these nations today? Who are these African tribes today, right? Yes, they're different. And then we have Canaan. We have Put, and then we have Canaan. All of these, but they weren't all the way wiped out, y'all. They weren't all the way wiped out. And then we have the sons of Shem, and then the sons of Jacob. So let me finish off in 12. He will set up a banner for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth, not just from Africa, y'all. The envy also of Ephraim will depart, and those who persecute Judah will be cut off. Ephraim won't envy Judah, and Judah won't persecute Ephraim. They will fly down on the shoulders of the Philistines on the west. So let me show you, where's Philistines? Where's Palestine? Right here in Israel. So that means that some of us are in Israel. We're right here in Israel. Judah and Ephraim is in Israel, right? Let's go. So some of us, as he brings us back together as two sticks, where are we coming from? Just Africa? No. All of that is Africa, but we're coming from Philistines on the west, which is Israel today, together with the plunder of the children of the east. What's the children of the east? Let's go back. So this is the west, Philistine. The children of the east is Jordan, right here. So we got what? We got Judah and Ephraim coming together from these nations as well. All right. Where are we? So when I talked about that river, let's see where we're crossing over from, though, y'all. Together, we will plunder the children of the east. So we are crossing over. There are waters to cross over here. As I said, it's going to be an earthquake. And that is the earthquake from the Red Sea that is going to split, that is going to split all the way up here across the valley, the fault line right here, all the way up. And there will be streams from the Red Sea all the way up here that goes into Jordan, that splits between Israel and Jordan. The Red Sea is a dividing line and a river that continues up to this rift. And these are the rivers of Cush, right? That's how we coming over, y'all. So he says, and they will extend their power over Edom and Moab. Let's see where Edom and Moab is. So as we're going to fly over the fords of the Philistines, together with the plunder of the children of the east, Ammon, we're going to come down, right? In the over and into Edom and Moab. That's coming down this way into the wilderness, y'all. Not here, y'all. Not in the Congo, right here, right? Let's continue. He said, and they will extend their power over Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon will obey them. So that's us going into the crossing over into the Jordan, coming down. Yahweh will utterly destroy the tongue of Egypt. So now he's explaining the other way in which the rest of Israel is coming through. He will destroy the tongue of Egypt, the Egyptian sea. What is that, y'all? What is the Egyptian sea? Is that the Nile River? No. This is the Egyptian sea. What is he going to turn the Egyptian sea into? What does it mean when we're going to cross over from beyond the rivers of Cush, right? Right here, just like we did before. Watch this, y'all. Let's see. Is he talking about the Nile River, the Niger and the blue? No. The white Nile and the blue? No, he's not. Listen, he said, I'm going to utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And with his scorching wind, he will wave his hand over the river and will split it into 7 streams and cause men to march over in sandals or by foot. So no, this splitting the seas or the rivers is not the Nile River here. That's not what he said, y'all. He's talking about this one right here. And he's going to split this into 7 streams because we're going to flee right in here, and we're going to cross over. That's why I said get to the borders of the Red Sea, right? From the Egyptian, y'all going to come on up and cross on over. Y'all going to cross over, y'all, into that wilderness right here, not Africa. All right. So he's going to split the Egyptian sea, and he's calling that a river. And we'll split it into 7 streams and cause men to march over in sandals by foot. You got people that's teaching you that Yah is going to split the shores of Mississippi River. You got people that's telling you he's going to split the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. Y'all, there will be a highway. This is the highway for the remnant that is left or remained, right? This is the leftover of his people from Assyria, like there was for Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. So y'all, I just showed you, this is a part of a pure language. The pure language that Yah said he will return to us is us speaking to each other in love. And love is that you speak and deal with each other according to the commandments of Yah, the ordinance and the precepts of Yah, with righteous judgment and honesty and sincerity and truth. And when Israel learns to bring righteous judgment, speaking to each other in sincerity and truth with a pure heart, when you call on his name, the power of salvation will manifest in us, and he will be amongst us. And when we call on his name as a unity in one shoulder, standing eye to eye, look me in my eye and see my heart, that's when he's going to split those streams and we cross over and we cross over the living waters of life into the wilderness where Yah will walk us amongst us as a cloud of fire by day and night and protect us and shield us from all harm. But I say again to you, stop letting these liars use the scriptures to wean you out of trying to come into some understanding out of being deceived in Christianity, into African spirituality. I've just showed you who the demons and the devils are, and you can see these spirits possessing them. You can see that they're speaking what their truth is right now. And I'm telling you that none of this is of Yah. Even though they use Yah's name, they're worshiping and they're sacrificing to the dead, to the ancestors, and to demons and devils. And this is not what Yah called for. He said to be spiritual is to walk by his law and commandments. For the law and the commandments and the testimony is spiritual. The rest he will return to us on the way. The language, y'all, he can put in your mouth in one day by his Holy Spirit. The music, he can endow you with the gift of the praise of the harp in one day, y'all. But we'll get it in the wilderness. Don't be so quick for culture, because right now it's time to return to repentance, to the law of Yah, to righteous judgment. Until then, Israel, this is not the last of it. I know there'll be a return, but I'm not finished with my judgments, calling out, shedding light on the darkness of the false prophets, the Canaanites, the wolves, and the roaring lions amongst us. Open your eyes, O Israel, O remnant, but most of you will not. Shalom, shalom, Israel.